This makes no sense. It may be difficult to wrap your head around this because of how huge the franchise has become, but Mario Kart really shouldn't work. It's random, it's unfair, and it actively punishes you for being good. And yet, these game design decisions might just be the reason why Mario Kart is arguably the greatest multiplayer game of all time, with a thriving competitive scene. There's a lot I want to cover in this video. First, why Mario Kart on paper is a disaster, and secondly, why I personally hated Mario Kart, until recently. Then, I want to break down the 4 reasons why it works anyway. I also want to note before we begin that I'll be focusing my discussion in this video on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Kart World. The former is the 4th highest selling game of all time, and, to many, has been the definitive Mario Kart experience for the last decade. I can say with confidence that if you've ever played a Mario Kart game before, this is one of them. The latter is the latest entry in the series, what Nintendo has decided that Mario Kart should look like for potentially the next decade, for better or for worse. But of course, if we're going to talk about why Mario Kart shouldn't have worked in the first place, we're going to have to go back and do a little history. I have no idea how Super Mario Kart, the first ever Mario Kart game released in 1992, even made it past the ideas stage. First, some context. In 1990, Nintendo released F-Zero, a sleek, futuristic racing game for the SNES. In this game, you don't drive go-karts, you drive hover carts. So Nintendo didn't really need to make a kart racer just 2 years later, let alone a Super Mario themed one. This again may be difficult to imagine in a world where every gaming mascot seems to have their own kart racer, their own party games, their own tennis spin-off, and I'm sorry, but is it not insane to anyone that Mario and Sonic and all their little friends attend the Olympics together to compete? I guess what I'm saying is, at this point, there's no reason why Nintendo needed to pluck Mario & Co. out of their games and throw them into a kart racing game like Super Mario Kart. If anything, using Mario characters in a racing game should have seemed like a cheap gimmick back then, as opposed to a serious game concept. Then there's the multiplayer issue. Multiplayer wasn't really much of a thing back in 1992. Yes, there were games like Street Fighter 2, which featured simultaneous multiplayer, but most of these games were either arcade ports or co-op experiences. Nothing like the kind of gameplay which makes Mario Kart work. Mario Kart has always had decent single-player gameplay after all, but it's the multiplayer that really makes it stand out, and it is clear since all the way back in Super Mario Kart that this is what the game was designed around. So with all of this context, now imagine pitching Mario Kart to someone. Let's make a racing game. Okay, so far so good. And in this game, whether or not you win isn't based entirely on how good you are at racing, but also how you use the items you can get. Interesting, what a twist. But the items you get are selected randomly. You never know what items you or the other players will get, and therefore you can't plan around it. Wow, that's really gonna shake things up. Here is the best part. The better you do, the worse items you get. The people in the back who are doing poorly can get items like the lightning, more commonly known now as the shock, which will electrocute all of the other players, shrink them, slow them down, and steal all of their items. People in the front will get banana peels. Let's put Mario in it! And of course, ever since Mario Kart 64 came out in 1996, we have had the Spiny, or Blue Shell, designed to destroy the player in first place specifically. In other words, the main feature of this game is chaos. Most racing games reward skill and mastery, but Mario Kart, it punishes it. It's not exactly a racing simulator like F-Zero, it's not a battle game or a fighting game, it's not really a party game either. What exactly is this thing? By all logic, Mario Kart should be infuriating. And trust me, I used to shout this from the rooftops, until I changed my mind. If you can't tell already, I have autism. So guess what? I was a Sonic kid growing up. I never really liked Mario. There was no particular reason for it. I got a kick out of playing Super Mario 64 and New Super Mario Bros. On my DS growing up, but I never loved Mario or his games. I never invested anywhere near as much time into anything Mario related as I did Sonic the Hedgehog. But Mario Kart? Forget it. I actively hated this game. The only reason I even played was because my friend R loved it. Every time we got together, it was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. My other friend, M, would join us too. He grew up going go-karting, like real go-karting, outside, where grass is. He also used to play a lot of Mario Kart Wii as a kid. And me? I never even had a Mario Kart game, because why would I? Accordingly, I got absolutely destroyed. Every single race. I wrote the whole thing off as pure luck. I always got the worst items, at the worst times, and if I ever did get into first place, I would either get red shelled or blue shelled, so there was no point in even trying. Or so I thought. Slowly, I started noticing something. M, the go-karting fan, kept talking about lines. I had no idea what he meant, but he was driving differently to me. And R, well, he could play whenever he wanted. So he had a solid memory of most of the tracks, he knew the important shortcuts, and he knew little tidbits I never had even thought of. For example, let's talk about the coin item. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you can collect up to 10 coins, and they will each slightly increase your speed. Most people who play this game know this. Did you also know that if you're in first, you have a higher likelihood of getting a coin item than anything else? Most people who play this game can figure this part out too. Even I knew this, because whenever I would get into first, and someone would throw a red shell at me, I would only ever have a coin to defend myself with. It did not work. But R was almost always ready to defend himself, so what gives? In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you can hold up to 2 items, and as it turns out, if you're holding a coin, you can't pick up another coin. When R told me this, a flip got switched in my mind. They weren't winning just because they had better luck than me. They were winning because they knew things that I didn't. They were winning because they were just straight up better at the game. And so, I decided I was going to learn everything there was to know about this game. I cannot tell you how many hours I poured into watching Mario Kart gameplay and guides. I memorized track layouts, character stats and karts, including hidden stats that the game doesn't show you. I learned item distribution and probability, and shortcuts that even R didn't know how to do. One night, after I had been training for a couple of months, I told R that the only reason he always beat me was because he had a pro controller. I know, what a pathetic excuse for losing, but he was willing to challenge my assumption and swapped controllers with me. And I won. Not just once, but again and again. The controller obviously had nothing to do with it, but I needed an excuse for my miraculous skill increase. I cannot stress enough that my intentions going into this were to learn about something I hated to make it bearable. I just wanted to stand a chance. But then, even after I stole the controller and showed off my skills, I kept watching Mario Kart videos. And I would get excited for the next time I would see R, because it meant I could practice a new technique or strategy I had learned. I was falling in love with Mario Kart. So we have a problem. I've already established why Mario Kart should be a frustrating mess, and I've even told you my own personal story about why it is a frustrating mess. At least it was for me. It's a racing game where the fastest player doesn't always win. It punishes people for leading and rewards people for losing. That's not how games are supposed to work, right? Let's break down my reasons for why this kind of thinking entirely misses the point. Rubber banding. Rubber banding is a game design mechanic where the game dynamically changes how difficult it is based on player performance to keep things challenging and interesting. Think of it like stretching back a real rubber band. The further you let one end move away from the other end, the more tension you create, and the more restoring force that is required. Restoring force being the force required to essentially unstretch the elastic band. This is known as Hooke's law in physics, or the law of elasticity. In other words, the further you stretch the ends apart, the faster and harder they will snap back together when released. At its core, Mario Kart is a masterclass in rubber band design. The items shift power depending on where you are in the race. Powerful catch-up tools for the back, weaker defensive tools for the front. On paper, this looks unfair, but it also solves one of the biggest problems in couch multiplayer games, the skill gap. In a normal racing sim, once someone is in front, they're gone. You will likely never catch up. If one player is more skilled than everyone else, the rest of the players might as well not even exist. But Mario Kart refuses to let that happen. The rubber band system ensures that even the least skilled player feels like they could win. And the moment they believe that, the game has already done its job. It's fun for everyone, not just the best player in the room. This is why I kept playing Mario Kart with R and M, despite losing all the time. I genuinely believed that if I got lucky enough, I could still somehow win. However, maybe that isn't satisfactory to you. After all, you don't only play games with your friends anymore. You can go online and compete against people of a similar skill level to you, whether that be decided by Nintendo's inbuilt VR system or an external competitive system like Lounge. So let's talk about that next. Hiding depth in plain sight. I have a secret for you. The chaos in Mario Kart isn't purely random. It feels wild, but under the hood, it's a carefully calculated system. There are two variables that Nintendo uses to determine what kind of items that you can pull: placement and distance. Pro Mario Kart players are incredibly familiar with these two systems and use them to their advantage all the time. For example, a player is likely to win a race by dodging the shock. After all, if you're able to keep your items and your speed while everyone else is small, slow, and itemless, you have a massive advantage. But can they really do this on purpose? I mean, think about it. To dodge a shock and win a race, you need several variables to go your way. You need to have an item that you can use to dodge the shock. These items include the star, the bullet bill, and the boo, and are known as dodges, simply because they can allow you to dodge the shock. Then you need to predict that somebody has the shock. Then you need to predict when they are going to use the shock. And finally, you need to make up enough ground while everyone else is shocked that you win. How can you reasonably be prepared to do any of these things with Mario Kart's random item system? Let me break this down for you one step at a time. Number 1. Getting a dodge. Mario Kart World uses a placement-based item table. This table on screen right now was prepared by SND Denzo and translated by Ellie Tendo within the first month after the game came out, based on 100 races with 24 players, which is quite impressive work. As you can see, there are certain items that you simply cannot get if you are too far towards the front, and there are items that you cannot get unless you're right towards the back. Most of this should be quite unsurprising to you. First place often gets the coin item, which is one of 6 possible items they can get. Meanwhile, someone towards the back, say in 18th place, should be expected to get a dodge, since the only items possible between 18th and 21st place are mushrooms and dodge items. In fact, 3 out of 5 of these items can dodge the shock. From 22nd to 24th place, you can pull the same items plus the shock itself. You may also see some items in places that you do not expect. For example, it is rather strange to see that it's possible to get a star in 2nd place. After all, especially in a 24-player room, you wouldn't expect 2nd place to get a star at all. So what gives? Well, as I mentioned, there is also a distance-based system in play. The further away from 1st place you are, the better the items you get. Or really, the more likely you are to get better items. The table I showed you determines what you conceivably could get in those positions, but not what you're actually likely to get. Another thing worth noting is that, in smaller rooms, like the 12-player rooms that competitive lounge tournaments are held in, these item distributions are adjusted. In Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, if you wanted to get a really good item, you would drop to 9th place or below, because each of these places were treated as equal. As long as you're at an appropriate distance away from first, odds are that you'll get an item like triple mushrooms, a star, a bullet bill, a golden mushroom, or even the shock. In Mario Kart World, when playing in 12-player rooms, you usually want to be in 10th or worse if you're trying to pull a dodge item. This is because the way the item probabilities are mapped, 9th place is equivalent to 14th to 17th place, where you cannot get a bullet bill and you can get a coin shell. If you just drop 1 place down into 10th, you can get a bullet bill and you cannot get a coin shell. You tell me which odds you would rather take. Okay, so you can almost guarantee that you will pull a dodge item if you fall far back enough. But if you use it, you'll probably end up far enough ahead that you can't just pull another dodge. So it's not like we can just use dodge items and then fall back again until the shock eventually shows up. Which, by the way, is technically extremely unlikely. Take a look at this chart showing item probabilities in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe based on distance. We don't have anything anywhere near as detailed as this for Mario Kart World, but I can vouch for both systems being pretty similar when it comes to the shock. As I'm sure you already have figured out by now, the further away from first you are, and assuming you're in 9th place or lower, the more likely you are to pull the shock. But look at how unlikely you are to pull it in most cases. Even if you are as far back as possible, according to this chart, the highest chance you have of getting the shock is 9.1%. The thing is, there is always going to be 4 players between 9th and 12th place, collecting boxes that could have the shock in them. So if there are 4 players extremely far back, there would be a 9.1% times 4, which is 36.4% chance that they pull the shock. If they each pull a double item, that increases, it doubles to 72.8%. And then you have to consider that there are several item sets per lap, and then usually 3 laps per race. Now, this is an oversimplification, because you aren't always going to have all 4 of the lowest ranking players be that far behind at the same time. I wouldn't even say that it is likely for that to happen. What I am saying is that if you notice that some players in the room are falling really far behind, odds are they are trying to pull the shock. What you can also look out for is to see if they are using their power items to catch up or not, because if not, they're probably looking for the shock. Calling the shock. Okay, cool. We can reasonably get our hands on a dodge item, and we can pretty safely guess when someone has the shock. But when will they use it? This really depends on who you're playing against. If you're just playing against your casual friend, and they pull the shock, odds are they're going to spam it immediately, to slow everyone down and start to catch up. And that's a fair play, of course. I suppose that's exactly what the shock is intended to do. However, pro players are usually up against other pro players, which ironically makes them more predictable. A pro player who pulls the shock is going to do a few things. First, they're going to want to use the shock at or around an item set. This is super powerful for a few reasons. First, if you have the shock, you're probably quite far back, and that means that if you use it into an item set, you're likely to pull a super powerful item, which will allow you to catch up even faster. And if you're at the back and you're about to collect an item, that means everyone ahead of you has already passed that item set. Remember that the shock takes away your items if it hits you, so if you shock everyone immediately after the set, they will spend the maximum amount of time without items, waiting until the next set. Secondly, although this is track dependent, you will want to use your shock towards the end of the race and right before any major shortcut or shortcuts. If you do this, only you will have the items and the speed to take these shortcuts, and since it's the last lap, there is now no other opportunity for anyone to use those shortcuts to catch up with you. This is why the shock is so powerful, and why dodging the shock is so awesome. I'm going to show you 2 really common shock spots in Mario Kart World, and let's see if you can figure out why people choose to shock here. First of all is the first item set on lap 3 of Rainbow Road. This is probably the most common shock spot in the game for a couple of reasons. It's an item set, it's right before a major shortcut, and it's late enough in the race that if you can build a lead off of this shock, you don't have to worry as much about people catching up. The second example I want to show you is the first item set on lap 3 of Bowser's Castle. This one isn't as common as the one on Rainbow Road, but it is extremely brutal, and here is why. At the start of Bowser's Castle, there is an itemless shortcut that you can perform to cut off an entire turn. Despite not using any items, it is the biggest shortcut in the entire track, and saves more time than the mushroom shortcuts you can do later. Even if you use the shock and some extremely powerful items, if the people ahead of you make this shortcut, and especially if you don't, your race is as good as over. In this case, it's not the item deleting aspect of the shock that we're abusing here. It's the fact that it will shrink you, slow you down, kill your momentum, and drop you off of any rails that you are riding. All of this right before a crazy gap jump that is easiest to make by starting on a rail. So that final step, number 4, make it count, isn't exactly up to you. You have to count on the person using the shock to do it in a spot that you can take full advantage of, and the better you are, the more likely that your competitors will do that. If you want to master Mario Kart, you don't just need to learn how to drive fast and take good lines. You also need to learn item distribution based on placement and distance, keep an eye on your competitors at all times to figure out what they may be planning, and do whatever you can to ensure that you are prepared for the worst. This is why Mario Kart has such a dedicated competitive scene. The more you learn about this game, the more you realize that winning isn't about getting lucky. It's about mitigating risk or avoiding bad luck better than anyone else. This culminates in a game that rewards knowledge just as much as luck, if not more. But luck is still part of the equation, isn't it? Creating unforgettable moments. Think about the last time you played Mario Kart. You could probably tell me who won most of the races and how you did overall, but you will never forget that time you got shocked right before a shortcut, or the time you got blue shelled at the finish line, then hit by a million other items, and suddenly you're lost. There is a reason why people refer to getting comboed like this as getting Mario Karted. This game is famous for destroying lives and ruining friendships. But have you ever dodged a shock? Have you ever carried a mushroom into first place and used it to dodge the blue shell? Have you ever played so cleanly that no one could catch up to you, no matter what the game threw your way? Mario Kart takes what should be frustration and turns it into entertainment. You're not just racing, you're creating stories. When you start a race, the truth is, you have no idea what's going to happen. Every item and every interaction is a new plot development. And because everyone is sharing the same chaos, even the people losing still feel like they're a part of the story. Mario Kart has the unique ability to create these moments that you cannot forget, because there is no way to guarantee that any of these things will or will not happen. It's a complete gamble, and man does it feel good when the odds are in your favor. Fun for everyone. Mario Kart works on two levels. For casual players, it's a party game. It's accessible because everyone knows what to do in a race, and the randomness equalizes the playing field and makes every race hilarious, whether you're winning or losing. For competitive players, it's a high-skill challenge disguised as chaos. The very systems that frustrate beginners become the mechanics that reward mastery. I'm a competitive person. I struggle to enjoy party games, and a lot of board games too, because I hate the idea that no matter what I do, whether or not I win is arbitrary. But with Mario Kart, I can almost always find a method to the madness. There is always something I could have done differently, and almost always a lesson for me to learn. Almost always. Mario Kart isn't just about beating your friends, unless you want it to be. It's also about beating the game. Every time you cross the finish line in first place, you've not only outraced other players, you've also beaten the odds. When the game has thrown every obstacle it can at you, and you still win, that's a real victory right there. So yes, Mario Kart is unfair. It's punishing. It's chaotic. But that's exactly why it's brilliant. It's not trying to be a simulator. It's not trying to be fair. It's trying to be fun. Every single time you pick it up. And somehow, against all odds, it works. Mario Kart thrives because it's unfair. Because that unfairness creates the stories we tell after the race. Because deep down, we crave that unpredictable magic. Hey, if you're still here, I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end. I know my channel is new, but I'm working hard to punch above my weight class in video quality. This is the biggest video I've worked on up until now, and I'm so lucky to now have almost 1,000 subscribers to share it with. If this video does well, I'm planning on making a whole follow-up video to this one about the topic of gambling in Mario Kart, which will cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hopefully answer the question, why is this game so frustratingly addictive? I promise there is a lot more to this topic than you may first think. If you found this video entertaining, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you can catch that video when it comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.